What's up guys, Callum from Table Soccer here and welcome back to Talking Complete Kit. This is a series on Westwood Table Soccer where we are looking at the U-paint figures and bases that are available in the UK that are easily available here in the UK. And in this one we're going to be looking specifically back at our friends from Zeugo, and we're going to be looking specifically about how to paint the skin on them and any other sort of pitfalls and interesting things about the figures. Are they easy to paint? What do they take paint like? Can you customize the figures using paint, so creating long sleeve, short sleeve, different types of collar line? And also in this one I have found my original AC Milan Away kit from the original series of Zeugo heavyweights that came over way back in the early 2000s. I'm going to give you a little comparison between the two figure types. If you enjoy this video guys, please smash that like button. If you are new to the channel, down here there is a subscribe button. Feel free to click it at any time. Without any further ado, let's get into looking at Zeugos and how to paint skin. Right, here they are then. These are all the figures that we are going to be painting some skin on today. Now, we're not going to be painting all of these coloured figures over here. We'll probably pick one light colour and one dark colour and see how it goes. Now, I'm not expecting great results from those, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I don't think they're designed to be painted onto. I think they're more for the professional side of the game, where they just really care about the colours being different, and it's all about the slidey, polish approach. But that's cool. We're going to give them a little bash to see what they come out like. Back here, you would have seen most of these on the channel already, not so much of this guy, but the Santiagos we use quite a lot. So we've got the vintage here, the Victorian style figure on a standard classic Santiago base. We've got the Type 2 heavyweight replica figure here on a Zeugo base, and the Type 1 original heavyweight here. So we've got the Type 2, Type 1 and the vintage here. These guys are all on slightly different bases. These two obviously are both Zeugo bases. Didn't mention it while we were talking about Super Footies, but these Super Footies here, the two-tone bases, these are Super Footy bases. These two single coloured options here are actually Santiago Spitfire bases, which you will see throughout this episode and different figures and things. So the middle row, let's come on to the middle row. Here we've got the 2K4 vintage guys. Again, these are in Santiago Spitfire bases at the moment. So we've got the bald vintage and the classic vintage here. We've got these guys. We've got the heavyweight Walker figure here in the middle. He looks pretty cool. He's on the walk. Really smooth looking shirt. That one should be a ghost fun one to do. Then we've got the heavyweight hybrid. I love these little heavyweight hybrid figures, to be fair. I think they're a really cool idea, and I'm excited to see how they come out. Big fan of the heavyweights on this channel, as you guys know. We've got the AL1 lightweight figure here in the 3-part base. Looking forward to painting him as well. I've not painted a lightweight figure for a very long time, so this should be interesting with this guy. And then on the end over here we've got the new style AL1s. What I love about these LPMs, and I've spoken about it before, especially these sort of AL1 style figures, is the amount of detailing and cool little features. The hands especially look brilliant. Right at the front, in the middle, it's our good friends from Italy, the Zeugos. Now, as I said, I'm going to let go of the negativity towards Zeugo from here on in, as long as it doesn't relate to painting. They're very frustrating to put together. If you've got no idea what I'm talking about, go back and watch the Zeugo episode. It might have just been the batch that I had, I'm not really sure, but they were an absolute nightmare to get to fit together. But we have got one here, we've got a load over there, we've managed to get all of ours to work, and we will talk about that a little bit more as we're painting through. But we've got this Zeugo heavyweight style figure here. I really like this figure. My only issue with him is look how big his head is. It's massive. But we're going to go through all of these and we're going to paint these guys up, and we're going to put a couple of different skin tones on them. So we'll try them in the darker skin tones as well as a standard flesh skin tone, and we'll sort of see how they come out, what options and what customizationable options that you guys will have in terms of creating different shirt styles and sleeve types on these guys. Anyway, that's a lot of talking, so let's get into the painting. Just before we get going, I found actually yesterday the only original Zeugo team that I have left. Now, it's not a U-paint team. This is the AC Milan Away Kit. Pretty sure it's like number 11, ref 11 from back in the day. When these first came over to England and I first saw these, I thought these were absolutely mustard. I fell in love with this kit. I remember staring at it all the way home. I'm pretty sure I got these, I want to say maybe Welling Garden City, from one of the original Subbuteo club meets. But anyway, so I've got these guys, and the reason I got them out is I just wanted to do a quick sort of run through comparison of the sort of original Zeugo stuff here, and then compare it to what we have now. Now, the first thing to notice straight off the bat is the figure is slightly different. His head is still too big, but the figures themselves are slightly different shape. The arms are in a different shape here than they are on here. This one here sort of represents more of the classic heavyweight style. This one is a slightly modified version of the classic heavyweight style, which in itself may not actually be a bad thing. It's something that sets it aside. A lot of suppliers do a heavyweight, quote unquote, replica that look exactly the same as Subbuteo did them. Zeugo have kind of tried to make a move to use that style but change away. The other thing straight off the bat that I noticed is actually the bars are pretty much the same. Now, for some reason in my head I always believed or thought that the bars were a little bit smaller, but they're not. The bars, as you can see on the originals and the new ones, are about the same. The other thing that you may notice straight off the bat here, definitely you can see it with the naked eye, is that the discs are sort of a lacquer coating, and I think even actually the bases might be too. If we've got a couple out over here, we popped a couple out, so let's just get ourselves a little bit of space. So this is the inside of the original Zeugo base, and you can see it's got some white here appearing, like there's been some red taken off, sort of red lacquer taken off. So it would appear that they were just getting everything made in white and then lacquering them up in the colour that they wanted. So that's what the inside of them looks like, pretty much the same as it does now. Looking at it, the differences between disc and base are pretty much the same. So that's pretty cool. And then the inside, and this is another thing you'll notice it with this guy over here, the lacquer effect especially, is there's a little bit of bleed of colour of the black into the red where they've glued them in. There's actually space around the outside of this one. But if we look at now the underside of the discs of these guys, and there isn't that little lip that they have now, that little reinforcement beam that goes across there. They don't have that on the originals, and there's some strange sort of warping and glue. I don't know what they've used, but as you can see under here, the actual colour of the disc is a little bit different from what it is on the top. But yeah, so I just wanted to show you guys that as a quick comparison. From what I can remember, Zuegos were a little bit light as well, so I probably would look to get these weighted if I could get them out. But I absolutely love this team. Brilliant kit. Blew my mind when I first saw it. Does it look anything like the actual AC Milan Away kit from the period? Can't remember, couldn't tell you, but I think it's a really cool kit, and it's probably why I've kept it, because it's an awesome kit. But yeah, so I wanted to show you guys that just as I found it, so we could do a little comparison as to how well they fit together. But let's get these out of the way, and what we'll do is we will start on our Zeugo figure for this episode. So here we've got him here. Straight off the bat, his legs are nice and far apart. I'm not concerned about that. He does have hand and sleeve molds, so making him a short sleever, you'll still have that line there, but it can be done. He's got a very soft collar line, which will allow creation of V-necks and different collar lines there to be done fairly easily. His hairline is a little bit, what's the best way to put it? A little bit problematic, because what happens with it is, hopefully you guys can see this. If not, what I will do is I will come round. But you can see a really clear hairline around here, and then it kind of just all sort of disappears. So it's still quite thick around the back. So when you bring the skin around the back of the neck, there's no real difference between where the hair should be and here. It's quite a thick mould line, which is going to be not necessarily cause a problem, but it would have been nicer if they kind of chamfered it in. And straight off the bat, I can see a problem with the back of this figure, and it's this massive hole created in the moulding process. It's right in the middle of the back of the shirt. Now, if we get one of the old ones back, it was on there as well. You can see it here, but it's not as deep. Almost as if, let's have another look at a different one. Yeah, so they do have them on the old original ones as well, but not as deep as it is on this guy. This one is really deep. So if you were doing a stripe kit on there, you'd probably want to fill that before you even painted it, and it's another little step that you may not want to take.
It's a little negative against Zeugo, but I'm not going to hold it against him too much because I'm probably not going to paint this figure in a stripe kit. But there it is on the back there. So I'm quite looking forward to painting this. It should be good. Let's just check. Right, here we've got our Zeugo figure here then. We're going to be using Humbrol code 61 to put the skin tone on this. Brush wise, we are using a 00 Scepter Gold. It's got a few bristles that have been cut off because I've been using it quite a lot lately, and a couple of the bristles have been misbehaving, so they've been cut off. And we're just going to paint this guy as a long sleeve figure. We do have some that are painted in short sleeve, which we will show you at the end, but basically I just want to see and have a feel like what the skin goes on like. So as usual, I'm going to be using his head to do the lower half of his body. Now straight off, I'm looking at this and his legs are nice and far apart, which shouldn't give me any issues. It's got some nice clear mould lines around the front where the knees and the socks are. As we get round the back, that mould is pretty much smooth all the way down here from the back of his leg. So you kind of going to have to do the front of this leg first to then kind of bring your line round to make it nice and symmetrical, because the moulding around the back isn't as solid as you would potentially like it to be. But let's have a little look and see how the paint goes on. So as we're doing this, guys, to get these bases and discs to fit, basically on some of them I had to trim the bottom beam off, as you've seen me do before, and on some of the others we had to do some sort of shaving and sanding around the edge of the disc to get them to go in. And then they're also super glued in because they kept popping out, so they've been super glued and all sorts. So in terms of the bases and the discs, like I said, I've spoken about them before. I've not been overly impressed with the U-paint range that they've got available at the moment. In terms of the figure, I like the figure. I think the figure's pretty cool. As I said, I'll mention it again. He's got an head like Joe Royal. It's massive. In terms of how this paint is going on, it's going on quite nicely, to be fair. I wouldn't expect it to be bad. They do have a bit more of a matte finish plastic, I suppose, than the, especially compared to the Super Footies, which we'll talk about a little bit later, which is super shiny. But you can see what I mean here. So my mold line for my sock line is like here, and it kind of ends. But what I want to try and do is use my paint that I've put on the front, and I'm going to bring it round. And then what I'm going to do is just join my two ends together, and that should give me a nice crisp and clean line around the sock. So in terms of how the paint's going on, pretty standard. I'm not having any issues with coverage or anything like that, or it being particularly a difficult sort of paint to get on. No issues in terms of contacting other areas of the kit. Like I say, the only negative that I've got for it so far is just that sort of mold line around the socks. Now, it's not a massive issue once you get used to painting them. It's just if you're getting to this brand new, it might be something you just want to keep an eye out for, that you don't fall into that trap. Maybe get around, like I say, do the front of the legs first, which usually I don't. My natural position, especially for the second leg, is to start around the back, and I don't know why I always want to start around the back, and you'll see me do it later on, especially with the Santiagos, because I'm used to painting them. So I always do one leg, I start at the front, and then what usually happens is the second one I start at the back. With these, if I did that, I would run the risk of taking that flesh line down too low into the socks, which obviously you don't want to do. So actually, as I said, in terms of taking paint, these are actually pretty good, lovely and smooth, nice and easy. And you can see there what we have on our figure is some lovely legs that we've got there. So what we're going to do, as I said, is come around. We're going to do him as a long sleeve, so we're going to fill these hands in. That should be nice and easy. I don't anticipate this being any sort of problem at all. Pretty much they just got like little there's no real definition to the hand, no real detailing, just sort of got like little globs of plastic really for hands that are a little bit wider. You don't really need anything special, it's not a massive issue. LPM have taken it to another level really with their AL1 figures and stuff, having sort of really strong hand details, which do look pretty cool. But yeah, so hands as expected, very easy, no issues whatsoever. And let's just come around now and do his head. Now, as we said earlier on, they've got a really soft collar line, which is going to make it sort of nice and easy for us to do something maybe a little bit special. So what we will do is do this guy as a V-neck. I've got no idea what kit I'm going to be painting this into, by the way, so creating a V-neck might be a bad idea. It might limit me, but we'll do it anyway. To create a round neck, again, because you have no mold line, this could be an issue for someone, but what you really want to do is get your paint, line it up along the bottom of his chin and just hold it against it and sweep it round, and then you should, in theory, get a really nice clean sort of round neck on there. And then here we go. So here we are at the back of the shirt, very smooth all the way down, which is, it's not a massive problem, but it would just be nice if they just chamfered it in a little bit more to get that paint on. But actually, in terms of painting the skin on these guys, not very difficult. Quite easy, to be fair, to get the skin on that guy. As we said, I've got some others in here. So I do have the mixed skin tones as we normally do here at Westwood Table Soccer, and a little, oh, shouldn't have picked him up by his head. That was silly, wasn't it? So we've got a couple of guys here in the long sleeve and in different skin tones and a different base style. So again, all pretty much the same. I've not done anything special with the collars on these guys yet. So what I will do just quickly is where I grabbed hold of his head. I'm just going to have to fill that paint back in. That was a schoolboy error, wasn't it? And then what I'm going to do is just create a small V-neck. I don't want it to be too big. I don't want a massive V-neck. So all we're going to do is just create a V. Now, because this doesn't have a very hard collar line, this is where Zeugo have done a really good job. For this sort of level of freedom and creativity in creating different necklines for shirts, not having a strong collar in there is ideal, because it allows you to have that freedom to put some paint down there and create a shirt design with paint rather than the shirt design already being created for you. So now we've got him done. As I said, we've got these other two guys in the long sleeve variant as well, and we also have a couple of guys here, just bring them in, that we've made into a short sleeve version. In terms of creating the short sleeve, again, it's very easy, and the mold lines on the hands aren't a massive problem, as you can see here. Now, nice and crisp and clean, like I say, takes paint really nicely. The mold lines around the back of the legs on all the figures are pretty shallow, they're not very intense. But yeah, so this creating a short sleeve figure, really nice and easy, the same as you will see us do later on, so I will show you the technique, but they look really great as short sleeve figures as well as long sleeve figures. So in terms of taking paint so far, Zeugo has been pretty impressive, as I expected him to be. I wasn't expecting any major issues, but those are the 6 Zeugo figures that we've got. We've got 3 with long sleeve, 3 with short sleeve. Happy with how they take paint. As I said, no complaints whatsoever. Okay, that brings us to the end of this episode, guys. Like I said, if you enjoyed it, smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click this button that is in the middle. On this side of the screen, we're going to have the entire Talking Complete kit playlist, and on this side of the screen, we're going to have specifically the Zeugo video. Nothing else for me to say, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, stay safe.